one of the things I was most anxious to talk to you about when you came back, aside from the fact that we had to catch up, it'd been a month, I really wanted to pick your brain on the whole NASA and Artemis thing.
What a week.
I want to compliment you. I want to take just a second before we dive into our top talker. I think you do a marvelous job of taking what is really a very tricky subject. This is not easy. It's rocket science.
It really is.
And you broke it down in a very digestible way that the people at home that knew nothing about the mission felt like they really were smarter about it after listening to you. I think you have a very keen sense of doing that with the weather, obviously. Thanks. But I just thought you nailed all of your reports from Florida. They were very informative, easy to watch.
Well, there's more to come.
I know.
The rocket did not launch.
It's a launch that will never happen.
It's going to happen. I promise it will. They are working on it, and that's actually our top talker today. As many of you know, I have been in Florida awaiting the launch of Artemis 1, and yeah, there it is. It's still on the launch pad. So day one, Monday, original launch day, whole bunch of problems. It literally was whack-a-mole with little issues throughout the morning. They got that figured out. Then there was a leak. Then there was a problem with engine 3. That turned out to be a sensor that was just ruled out, and they figured out that they did not have the problem that they thought they did. All right? Re-rack, we're going to start it up again on Saturday. What you're looking at now is video of testing of the umbilical for the lower part of the rocket in the back. That is where not only power goes into the rocket and all kinds of other information, but there's a lot of tubes there, one of which is an 8-inch liquid hydrogen line. It's a pressurized liquid hydrogen line. So this rocket basically flies because oxygen, liquid oxygen, and liquid hydrogen, the two of them make a beautiful rocket fuel. So that umbilical, as they connect it in there, is cooled to 423 degrees below zero. Wow. That's the temperature of the liquid hydrogen as it goes in. And then they pressurize the line in order to get it in the rocket very quickly. Well, the problem is that whole retractable arm thing, at one point they were pressurizing the line before Saturday's launch, and they basically popped the seal.
Too much pressure,
They
right?
goosed it.
Yeah.
And we didn't know that as the media, waiting for all this to happen. We just knew it had been scrubbed because of a leak. And then they called it a leak that was significant leak, which you don't want to hear significant leak of hydrogen. Not good.
Yeah.
So then about 4 hours after the scrub, they have a big press conference. And it was Bill Nelson, the administrator of NASA, Mike Seraphin, the mission manager, and then James Free, who is from Cleveland. He is kind of the overseer of the entire project.
You interviewed him many times last week.
Wonderful guy.
Yeah.
And in that press conference, Mike Seraphin, and I have the quote written down, these are my notes from the press conference, he said, inadvertent overpressurization of a quick disconnect valve of an 8-inch fuel line. NASA does not say the word inadvertent.
Yeah, that's code for mistake.
So to me, I was like, what? What was that? And then a quick disconnect means it's that retractable arm. We have quick disconnects on anything with like natural gas. You probably have them in your house. So I knew that those can be popped if the pressure is too high. And he said inadvertent overpressurization. So we were all kind of trying to decipher what was going on. I'm listening to this in the car with my photographer, and I'm like, I think he just said they blew the gasket, like they blew the seal on the quick disconnect.
And human error is what it is.
Human error, because he said inadvertent.
Yeah.
And later in the press conference, he said, well, we're looking at ways to automate that. And I was like, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me.
How is that not automated?
So it was like all this stuff coming together, and they don't come out and say this is what it is. And truth be told, I don't know 100% that this is what it is, but this is every context clue that was given over the course of that press conference that has come around. They said that the max pressure on that line was 20 PSI. For 3 to 4 seconds, it went up to 60 PSI.
Oops.
That's a big oops.
Yeah, that's triple what it could normally take.
So somehow, some way, it dislodged that quick connect.
Yeah.
And they had a leak, a bigger leak, that did eventually, they said, pose a fire risk. That was not, it didn't catch fire or anything, thank goodness. But then they had the problem of, well, now we've tanked 10% of the liquid hydrogen, and the same line that got the liquid hydrogen in there is the one that they used to get it out. So now they're like, well, now we can't get it out. So they have all these things to work around. So the plan going forward, they offered three options. They said, number one, we can leave it on the pad where we will be able to fix and tank and test.
Right.
They have to build a shield around it to get it out of the weather. Option two, they roll it back to the vehicle assembly building, where they can do everything out of the elements, but they can't test it.
Right.
So the other part of all of this, the third thing, is that in 25 days, now probably 22 days, the batteries for the flight termination system, which is required by the U.S. Space Force in order to launch from Kennedy, that's basically something goes wrong, they can tank it into the ocean.
Right.
Those batteries expire.
Wow.
And they have to be in the VAB in order to replace those batteries. So now it's like trying to do Jenga with figuring out exactly how to fix what they have to fix. They don't know if they have to replace gaskets. They don't, they didn't know any of that.
Do you have a best guess for when this might happen?
It'll be a few weeks.
It will. Weeks.
Yeah.
Now.
The next launch window opens at the end of September, the beginning of October. And the one after that is the end of October. I think realistically, end of October is doable. Okay. Do I know that for fact? No, but I would have to say based on how things have planned out and played out over the last 10 years.
Right.
That's probably what we're
I know
at.
from living there 5 years, Florida's wonderful in October. Oh. So you'll enjoy that.
Well, we'll see. It's long days, but man, it's so fascinating. And all of our folks at NASA Glenn have played such a pivotal role. And it was just so hard to see everybody going, oh, yeah, when that happened.
Huge disappointment.
It's going to go. I promise. Yeah. It's going to go. They'll
fix it. They always do.
Absolutely.